Hello, my name is Zachariah Moreno, and today I'll be walking you through some cool new features in the Chrome Developer Tools, recently released in Chrome version 30. So let me go ahead and open up the Chrome browser here. And I have a web page that I've recently been developing. I'm going to show you a few different ways to open up the Chrome Developer Tools. So the first way would be right-clicking on the page and selecting the Inspect Element menu link. That will open up the Chrome DevTools panel from the bottom edge of the screen. That's what you see here. So I'm going to close that very quickly and show you a few other options. I'm on the Mac, so I'll be using a keyboard shortcut, it'll be Command-Option-I, and that will open up the DevTools for you as well. So let me close that and show you a third way. So I'm going to open up a new tab here. I'm going to navigate to Chrome://inspect. And then on this navigation panel, I'll be switching to Pages. And you see here now a list of the active tabs we have open in this instance of Chrome. So we see our Bleeding Edge Browsers page here and a link for Inspect. I'll click that and it snaps over to that tab and opens up DevTools for us. So by default, the DevTools opens on the Elements panel, and we see here a DOM tree of the inspected page, and it gives us a high-level overview by default, but we can drill down further and see all of the nested elements building this page. So let me drill down a little bit, and here we have a H1 element for the heading Chrome on this page. So that reached the bottom of the DOM tree, and you'll see here on the bottom a handy list of all the elements that contain our heading 1 element. And if we look over to the right side of this page, we see all of the styles that pertain to this H1 element. Font size, font weight, margin. So we can begin to toggle these and see how they would affect the element rendering. So there's a few handy tips and tricks here. We can toggle them by clicking the checkbox. We can select the pixel value and scroll up or down to have the live edit take over. I'm going to Control Z that. You can Control Z anywhere within the developer tools. And then if we click within this panel, I can add additional CSS styles that would pertain to this H1 element. So let's do letter spacing. Letter spacing, and we'll do 15 pixels. So you'll see there that every H1 on the page has increased the letter spacing by 15 pixels. And we can toggle that just like the other styles. So we can scroll that as well. So moving forward to the other panels that we have available would be resources next. And this gives us an overview of all of the static files necessary to build this web page that we're inspecting. So we have it grouped by images, scripts, style sheets, and the index of the page. So let's go ahead and take a look at the images, and if we click one, in the main panel we can see the file name, the dimensions, size, and the actual link to that resource. Very handy. So if you're using other web technologies such as WebSQL, IndexedDB, local storage, app cache, you can view these in the resources panel as well. So moving forward to the next panel, the network panel, it's empty by default with a few column headers such as size, time, timeline. But if we right click here, we can add additional columns such as cookies, server, connection, a few other options there. So how do we populate this panel with the network information that we want to inspect? There's this record button here at the bottom. If we select that, it turns red, and if we refresh our page, it begins filling in with information. So we'll stop the recording, And first off, you'll notice a list of the resources that we just viewed in the resources panel in the order, shown in the order in which they loaded, along with their size, what method over HTTP used to retrieve them, and also the handy timeline panel here. So it looks like the index of the page took about 2 milliseconds to receive. So we get a pretty good idea here of what resources took the longest to load for us. So it looks here like my chrome-canary.png is taking the longest at roughly 516 milliseconds. So handy information if we're looking to increase the performance of this page. So that is an overview of the network panel. Let's move forward to the sources panel, very similar to the resources panel, in that it gives us a list here, a tree view of the files necessary for building this page. The difference lies in the ability to edit the files used to build the page. So we'll open up a script file here, a styles file here, the main.css, and we can click anywhere within this file and we're given a cursor and we can change any of these styles. Cool. So you'll notice here on the tab of this file that there is an asterisk that's appeared. So we've changed the file. It's a dirty state right now. So how do we save this edited file? There's multiple ways. You can use the keyboard shortcuts for Command or Control S, and that will save it locally to disk, but will not save it to your hard drive. So in RAM. So if we want to save it to hard drive, we can right-click and click Save, and that will open up the download dialog box. But we'll cancel that for now. So I'm just going to save it to RAM, and now we see that if we right-click, we can select local modifications, and we have this panel that will show up from the bottom, the timestamp and the name of this file, and the deltas for the change that we just made. So we also have the ability to revert that change there. So handy feature when using developer tools as your editing environment. But I'm going to close these files for now. And we'll move on to the timeline panel. So the timeline panel's main focus is to record, again, a snapshot of your page and the events therein, and let you drill down specifically looking at the different events making up the time spent, frames, and memory. So again, similar to the network panel, we have a record button. I'll select that and refresh the page. I will stop the recording, and you'll see now a memory snapshot of what is taking up what amount of time. So we can select this region here and drill down further and see the events involved and how much memory they're taking up. So if we move and change the view to frames, we get this flame chart view of the same recording. So we can select a region here and then scroll down and see what different events are taking up the most frames to render, because the desired is always going to be 60 frames per second. So it looks like we have a paint event that's taking a sizable amount of time here, about 42 milliseconds. And if we hover over that, it shows us what page region it's actually painting in that event. And we can drill down further and start to get a better insight into what is taking what amount of time and how many frames it's rendering for that. So if we move to events, this is specific to JavaScript events and how long they are each taking to load. So we get this big chunk here for parse HTML. It looks like it took, let's see, okay, so 121 roughly milliseconds. So that's a long event. So if we drill it down here, we can see what specific JavaScript functions were taking up what amount of time for us, so we can begin to optimize those for faster speeds in our timeline. And just a quick caveat here, you'll notice that things are color-coded by loading events, scripting, rendering, and painting events. So loading being blue, scripting yellow, rendering purple, and painting green. So we have these checkboxes here, and if let's say we just want to see painting events, we're trying to of trying to optimize for the rendering of the page, and we can get a snapshot view of the same recording of what took longest to paint, and begin to drill down from there. So that's the timeline panel and the different views of the data visualizations that are provided there. We move forward to the profiles panel. I'm going to show you a quick demo of the JavaScript CPU profile recording and the report that it feeds back to us. So that's selected by default in this panel, and it's going to give us a report of what functions are taking what amount of CPU usage for us. Again, giving us more insight into our page being built. So I'll click Start and just wait a moment. We'll record some events and we'll select Stop. So you'll see here that for 99% of the time it was idle, and then we begin to see 0.17% for p.extend.style. jQuery on line 2 is doing that for us. So we get some pretty good insights on what specific, on the function level in JavaScript is what taking what amount of CPU usage. So we can record multiple profiles for different needs. So we have a heap snapshot and then heap allocations as well. So if we move forward to the audits panel, this is a handy panel that you can use to, again, record a snapshot of your page on load and receive tips and pointers as to ways to improve your site's performance. So if we click the run, having selected the network utilization and web page performance, it will reload the page and audit on load. So we'll click run for that. Okay, page is loaded. And it looks like we can enable gzip compression on 2 resources, so jQuery and Google Analytics. We can leverage browser caching, a whole lot of improvements that we can make here to this site. So it looks like I also have unused CSS rules, 1,839, so I can definitely remove those to increase performance. Moving forward to the console here, we have the JavaScript console. So this is very handy when debugging. If you set a breakpoint in your resources panel on a JavaScript file, and you want to get a quick view into the value of a variable at that point in time, you can request it here via this prompt. So I'm just going to show you a little bit of math. We'll do that, and that 5 plus 10 times 90 is 905. Cool. JavaScript works. So that is an overview of all the panels in Developer Tools. Now let's start talking about the opportunities to customize your Developer Tools experience. So the first way that we can customize our Developer Tools is by installing extensions. So you'll notice here after my console panel, I have another panel called AngularJS. If we open that, this is a third-party extension that's open sourced by the AngularJS team specifically for debugging AngularJS applications. So I'm not going to go into too many details about that. I just want to show that you can pop over to the Chrome Web Store and search AngularJS, and there are Developer Tools extensions available for installation there. So the next time, after installing that, the next time you've opened Chrome DevTools, you'll see additional panels there and you can begin to use them. So that's one way to customize your Developer Tools experience. Another way is by customizing the panel styles. So there are some great open source repositories on GitHub that allow you to restyle your Chrome. So you'll see now that I have the default style of white background, black text, some syntax highlighting. But I would like to install this Monokai theme. So how do we accomplish that? Depending on your operating system, you have a different path to this user style sheets custom.css. So I'm on the Mac again, and I have that open, and I'm going to open that in my editor. Okay, and Sublime Text. Okay, and you'll see that we've opened up, it's an empty file, but those GitHub profiles that I had mentioned before, we're going to go to this Monokai theme, and we have a whole bunch of styles here from a very talented developer named Alina Basova. So we're going to click on the raw here so I can quickly copy and paste it. Select and copy, switch back to our Bleeding Edge browser page, go back to Sublime, custom.css, we'll paste all of that styles there and save that. We'll switch back to Chrome, and now you'll notice that the styles in question that were this DOM tree that we're previously inspecting is a completely different style, and this is across all of the panels here. So nice addition, personal touch, and you can customize the custom.css to your heart's content. So a quick side note here, if you're unhappy and can't really read what's going on in the developer tools, it behaves just like any normal web page, and you can command plus or minus to your heart's content and increase the text size there. So aside from customizing the styles of your developer tools, we can utilize snippets to add additional functionality a lot quicker than it would be to develop a whole DevTools extension. So if we pop over to our sources panel, you'll notice that there are three tabs here. We have sources, content scripts, and snippets. So I'm going to go to the snippet section, close this previously edited file, and we're going to right click and select new from the snippets menu. We're going to call this colors, and you'll notice that we get a cursor here in our editor. So another great open source repository on GitHub is DevTools snippets from bgrins. So I've selected this one. There's a bunch in here. So I've selected the allcolors.js. So this is about 57 lines of JavaScript. I'm just going to click on raw so we can copy that. Select and copy that. Switch back to the developer tools and our colors file. We'll paste that in there. You'll notice it's the asterisk has returned. We'll click Command S, and now we have our colors.js file saved as a snippet. So what do we get out of this? It's going to add additional functionality like I had said before. So if we right click on the file, now we have new options, and I'm going to select Run. So if we run that, it will open up the console for us and show us all of the RGB values and a swatch for all the colors utilized by this web page. So just a quick handy little enhancement to the developer tools was added through that snippet and being able to run it. You'll also notice that the console did not switch us to the console tab. It came up from the bottom. So there's this icon to toggle this, and it will show you the console window on any of the inspected tabs. So handy feature if you want to get a quick inspection through the console. So those are a few ways to customize your developer tools experience. There's also a lot of handy features within the settings of the developer tools. So you'll notice this cog in the bottom right hand corner. We select that cog and I switch to the overrides menu. There's a lot of options here for overrides. So the user agent, we can override that to Internet Explorer or Firefox or WebKit. You can set device metrics, resolution and scale, geolocation, orientation, and even CSS media. You can switch to print and see what the print styles are getting evaluated as by the browser. So you just click enable here, and then you can begin to override your geolocation, for instance. So while we're in settings, let me go back to general, and we can use another couple tools here to our advantage. So if we click show FPS meter, you'll notice that we're getting a frames per second meter at the top here, and it looks like the page is at 29.7 currently. And we can enable continuous page repainting. And what that'll allow us to do is tell Chrome that we want to continually evaluate our paint time and see the frames per second for that in real time. So a handy feature when debugging on the front end. So let me close the settings and switch back to our Elements panel and talk about mobile debugging. So this is a recent feature added to Chrome, and it works in conjunction with the remote debugging on Android Chrome extension, which is available here at developers.google.com under the install the ADB extension. So you click this link and it will install a extension within Chrome, and then anytime thereafter that you plug in an Android device with open Chrome tab into your machine, you can use your laptops or desktops Chrome DevTools installation to inspect the mobile version of the site. Same goes for debugging televisions as well. So just to show another quick feature that I use to debug other people's sites and gain insights from how they're doing things. So I switch back to the sources panel and open up a minified script. I'll open up Modernizer in this instance. You'll see that it's all one line of code. So if we click this button here on the bottom, you'll notice when we hover it says pretty print. If we click that, it will then format it for us depending on the language syntax that we're evaluating. So that's another handy feature when debugging and working with minified code within the sources panel of the developer tools. So I'll go ahead and close Modernizer. You'll notice that it also says hit Command O to open a file. So if we know the name of the file that we're looking to edit, we don't need to use the tree view here. We can just hit Command O and then begin typing. So if we say min, we can get jQuery.min, for instance, and you'll notice that it's pretty printed for us. So those two features in conjunction work really nicely. In conclusion, I've given you an overview of all the panels available in the DevTools suite and how they can be used to enhance your development workflow, both as an editor and an inspection tool. So if you're interested in learning more about the Chrome Developer Tools, you can navigate over to developers.google.com and search Chrome DevTools. There's a lot of information updated on the regular, both about using Chrome DevTools and developing extensions for Chrome DevTools. Aside from that, the Google Developers channel on YouTube offers episodes titled The Breakpoint with Paul Irish and Adi Osmani, going into depth about a lot of the features that I've discussed here today. So, thank you.